Hello, and thank you for joining me for this presentation. My name is Danielle Lewis, and I'm an assistant head teacher at Cyfarthfa High School in the heart of Merthyr Tydfil. During this presentation, I will take you through our journey so far towards Curriculum for Wales implementation in September 2022, and how we have worked as a school and a cluster in developing a comprehensive curriculum from the age of 3 to 16, which we feel secures equity and excellence for all our students. Before I begin, I would just like to give you a little context of our school and cluster. Cyfarthfa High School is an English medium 11 to 16 mixed comprehensive school, which has 923 students. There is a natural fall in roll within our community and cluster schools, resulting in a decline of our school numbers over the last few years. However, due to the work that we've been doing with our cluster schools and the community, there has been a desirable increase forecasted for student numbers in September. Approximately 60% of students live in 20% most deprived parts of the Wales, and nearly all of our students come from homes where English is the dominant language, with very few students speaking Welsh as a first language. The proportion of our students who come from an ethnic minority group is around 6% in total, and the percentage of students eligible for free school meals this year has risen to 24%, following a considerable increase since 2021. Current figures place the total proportion of our students on the Additional Learning Needs Register at around 19.6%, with about 2% of our student population being statemented. I am proud to say we have a strong, cohesive cluster and we work very well together, which really has made our journey towards curriculum implementation easier, more seamless, always having the students at the centre of our decisions and direction. Our cluster comprises of five primary schools, which are Cyfarthfa Park Primary School, Cadral Primary School, Coed Primary School, Twyn Rodden Community School, and Hilgeric Primary School. For the last few years, we have been using the SOL dimensions and survey outcomes to inform our school development plan and professional learning provision for our staff. As we make progress towards implementation of the new curriculum, it was vital for us to use the outcomes of the Schools as a Learning Organisation survey to help us reflect, reset, restart and set our new direction for curriculum review, refinement and development, as well as a professional learning plan to respond to the staff needs. Following the Schools as a Learning Organisation outcomes from the most recent survey we undertook and significant consultation with all stakeholders, we quickly realised our school vision was not appropriate as we move closer towards Curriculum for Wales implementation, and also that it was not directly linked to the students at the centre. Therefore, we have since changed our vision to ensure it inspires all students and staff and is centred around the four purposes of the new curriculum. Following this, new strategic professional learning plan was created to support our staff needs based on the feedback and identification of outcomes. Staff undertook action research inquiry-based projects which directly link to Curriculum for Wales and underpins 3 of the 7 Schools as a Learning Organisation dimensions, which is also triangulated with our performance management targets for all teaching staff. This is to ensure we all have a concise focus across the whole school, working towards the same school priorities and goals overall. Our outcomes of this have been translated to the work that we have been doing across the cluster. Our work as a cluster has been integral to setting our journey towards Curriculum for Wales implementation next year. We have established a clear vision across the cluster whilst maintaining individual school visions, but have all been entirely committed to planning and designing a curriculum framework and continuum from the age of 3 to 16 for all of our students. The purpose of this is to ensure all students across the Cyfarthfa cluster receive equity of provision and educational experiences and opportunities underpinned by the principles of progression to support overall progress. As part of our work as a cluster, a significant amount of planning days were allocated between our schools and the cluster schools. This began with head teachers and curriculum leads from each school determining our vision, expectations and aims of progression to develop a 3 to 16 curriculum continuum. Through this, we designed a curriculum framework document which supported the mapping of non-negotiables for each AOLE, beginning with the principles of progression and what matters statements. The first of these days benefited from Central South AOLE leads to support us and share good practice, all led and supported by a member of the senior leadership team and curriculum lead from each of our 6 schools. Approximately 3 days in total were given to each AOLE across the cluster, which brought staff together from the 6 schools with a breadth of experiences from the age of 3 to 16 in order to identify our non-negotiables, which robustly link to the principles of progression, what matters statements, and the progression steps. Also, as a cluster, we have been supported by the local authority, who have provided a succession of curriculum design professional learning days, all well attended by key staff across the whole cluster school. Our curriculum route maps will underpin the mandatory elements of the curriculum and will also be further supported by the Business and Education Together group by the local authority in order to raise aspirations of all of our students. Whilst our curriculum will always be a working document, our curriculum framework will always be a working document, constantly reviewed and refined where needed, we can confidently say that our 3 to 16 framework supports learning progression. Our curriculum will allow learners to be more effective whilst developing breadth and depth of knowledge, and will allow all learners to refine and grow their skills in all areas. Students will also develop ideas and disciplines within each area, as well as making natural connections between new contexts. Our aim is to provide a culture of inquiry and exploration, placing our students into deep learning contexts enriched with literacy and a humanity-based curriculum. This will allow learners to make more connections and transfer their learning and become citizens of the world. This has actually been a very challenging and complex journey. It has been important to maintain individual school visions and priorities whilst developing a 3 to 16 curriculum framework to provide our students with the equity of provision and route throughout the 3 to 16 framework to ensure that all students have had a similar opportunities and experiences, allowing them to progress at the learner's rate of readiness. The demand on time has been quite significant, whilst still running schools as normal. However, each school across the cluster has been fully devoted to releasing staff to achieve the vision of the 3 to 16 curriculum continuum. Through working so closely together, we have been able to maximise on the breadth and strength of expertise of all staff across the cluster. And it has, however, been difficult to design a curriculum with some unanswered questions and decisions surrounding assessment, but we have had regular dialogue and discussions regarding assessment against our curriculum and are formalising an outcome for this overall. Our next steps as a cluster will be to constantly review and refine the 3 to 16 frameworks. Extensive consultation will continue to happen and will inform the progress we make and the refinements that are required. Stakeholder voice will also be a key part in informing further decisions and change required throughout Year 1. Throughout the cluster, we will work together with regard to professional learning and maximise on the expertise we have as a cluster. For example, we have agreed the modern foreign language across the cluster is now Spanish, and staff will be provided with a series of professional learning sessions and resources to support the implementation of this where required. We will continue to use the outcomes from the SOL survey to also inform the professional learning needs of our staff, in addition to further consultation with staff across all the schools. And as a cluster, we will continue to deliver our transition project, which is directly linked with the curriculum framework and provide a stepping stone into one of our whole school projects. This is just to ensure that transition really is directly linked with curriculum and not always just focus on the softer elements of the transition process that we still require. We continue on our journey to make some key decisions on assessment models and how we can align these decisions across the cluster. As you can see on the screen, this is an example of a small screenshot from the Expressive Arts 3 to 16 framework at the early stages of the curriculum continuum. We have identified the non-negotiables in line with the what matters statement and progression steps, all underpinned by the principles of progressions. In addition to this, we have also mapped out the experiences we would like our students to have had at each stage, again supporting equity and excellence of provision, and to ensure there are no gaps in learning as students progress throughout their educational journey. Due to the diverse nature of each AOLE, it was decided across the cluster that each AOLE would use the initial framework you can see on the screen to support curriculum design, but would take a slightly different route depending on the nature of the what matters statements and the lines of inquiry across the progression steps. As you can imagine, these are really extensive documents and they are very detailed as expected to support the overall 3 to 16 curriculum framework. At Cyfarthfa High School, our vision for the curriculum allows for flexibility in delivery, allowing heads of AOLEs to make the best decision for our students and their faculties. We have designed a concept-based curriculum which has an overarching concept for each year group, underpinned by key concepts as an area of focus for schemes of learning. These are viewed as our golden threads that will connect learning across each AOLE. And the curriculum will be split into 6 terms. 2 terms will be a trial for 2 whole school thematic projects, which have been agreed by staff and students. We are very mindful at Cyfarthfa High School of themes, as we don't want them to be superficial, and we are dedicated to ensure that these projects are underpinned by our key concepts and designed collaboratively to allow for authentic connections. Both projects will be supported by immersion events at the start to launch the projects and celebrated at the end by an expedition event, which will involve parents and carers. The remaining 4 terms will be at the discretion of each faculty, who will be supported to deliver through a variety of approaches such as disciplinary, multidisciplinary and interdisciplinary models. As we approach year 2 then, we will review the success of whole school projects and consider more interdisciplinary approaches where they fit best and how we can be more creative with a timetable to support the implementation of this. At Cyfarthfa, we are dedicated in ensuring that staff are supported and no approaches to the curriculum are forced. We want our curriculum to be natural, purposeful and suitable to the demands of each AOLE area. This is just an example of our Year 7 concepts and Project 1, and each year group will have an overarching concept that will change from year to year and is mapped out from each year, throughout the whole school. I am sure as a school and a cluster we have not done anything out of the ordinary, and many of us would have had very similar journeys and experiences so far to date. We are very much in the infancy of this, and I very much doubt that there will be considerable change over the next few years. But this has been a pivotal year for us to work at a greater depth with our cluster, and I'm excited to see the next steps and how we evolve. Now that I am at the end of my presentation, I would just like to thank you for joining me, and will always welcome an opportunity to share good practice and collaborate with any other schools. Thank you.